how I got over, how I got over. My soul looks back and wonder how I got over. Either save me or kill me.
I read an article about you and where the origin of the Sheik came from, kind of out of necessity as a hair covering at a show.
Oh, you're talking about the look.
Right, but
Man.
what I wanted to ask you is if the identity of the Sheik was that kind of born out of a necessity to roll so heavy with the times, so to speak? I mean,
No, it was strictly, interestingly enough, it was strictly out of necessity because my hair, as a matter of fact, under this scarf and this cap, my hair is about like that. It's, you know, and when I would perform, this was before we changed the name. We were the Spoon River Band.
Spoon River Band.
Spoon River Band. And so I would perform and I would go on stage, you know, with this globe and I thought I looked hot, whatever. And I would start, you know, performing and perspiring. And then all of a sudden it would start dropping and just dripping in my face, you know. And so I'm singing, you know, and I look like, you know, I look like a baboon. I hated it, you know. So I was complaining, and we were just at the point. Excuse me. That you might find this interesting. The Sheiks was born out of about, I would say, at least 10 different configurations in like a 15, 16-year period back then. Different musicians would come in, and people would quit. Blah blah blah.
Okay.
And so. We were the Spoon River Band, and that name kind of stuck because that was the first name. But we tried different configurations. But then we knew we needed a new name because we finally got down to the core of the four of us, and so I was complaining about my hair. At the same time, we were trying to think of new names, you know. And we were in a meeting, and so everybody was kicking out names, including myself. But I was like, I can't keep performing like this because I can't see. It's horrible. And so then our drummer Rob Sanders said, well, "What about the Sheiks?" And we all looked at each other, and it just had that ring, you know. And we said, "Yeah, that's cool." Now he was coming from the perspective of the bluesman. You know, there's the Bill Street, there was in the 30s and 40s, there was the Bill Street Sheiks, you know, on and on, a lot of configuration of the Sheiks, but with different
I didn't know that.
names. Well, we're here to learn. Okay. So then we all decided, yes, let's go with the Sheiks. And then Rob said, and why don't you, you know, kind of adapt in a rock and roll way the identity of Rudolph Valentino, the Sheik, you know, back in the 20s and everything like that. And that clicked and resonated in my spirit. And I thought, because I'm thinking the material will absorb the sweat.
Right.
And it'll give me a look. But I give him all credit and honor for you know, suggesting that to me. And then with my sensibilities of style, but he said, you know, take that image and make it rock and roll. And so that I just started, you know, in front of the mirror, I started trying different things. And I ended up wearing all different types of headdresses as the Sheik, you know, with jeans or leather, whatever, and mixed all the rock and roll in with that. But that was really very, I've always, you know, been into different phases of art and clothing and fashion and stuff like that. So that's how the Sheik was born, out of necessity, to keep myself from, you know, drowning in my own fluids.
Right.
You know?
I don't know how to put it. I love Halloween and I love dressing up.
Yeah.
And when I dress up, it's almost as if it's permission to just abandon all formality and just kind of do whatever you want to do. Did the Sheik persona, did it take on a life of its own? Were you a different person on stage than you were?
To answer that first and foremost, I probably should have had therapy back then
Okay.
because it carried over into every aspect of my personal life too. And see, I have no filters. You can ask me anything, and as you see on Facebook and social media, I tell it all. I have no secrets. I've always been like that because you really can't hide from the cosmos. And people know your past and like
Sure.
that. But even sexually, people would want to sleep with the
The
sheik.
Sheik.
And so I take everything else off except I go for no, keep the scarves on.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's like, and then I would look in the mirror sometimes and go, okay.
Yeah, it's
I'm
working.
cool with that. I need the love and the physicality of
Sure.
closeness, but that really psychologically did do something, some things to me that I had to work out later on in my life.
I would think it kind of posed as a difficult hurdle. What was once a coat of armor maybe became a
Yeah.
difficult hurdle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then trying to sleep with a knot,
Sure.
on the pillow after you botched yourself was not exactly. So I sleep to this day on my side.
Right.
And I don't wear the scarves to bed.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's psychologically, socially, economically it became, the symbol of the band.
Sure.
The scarf itself. When you saw, any kind of advertisement that said the Sheiks, everybody thought about the guy with the scarves,
Sure.
stuff like that. And so I loved it, I hated it, and I loved it.
And that's something I wanted to ask you. At some point, did you enter a space where the lifestyle, it didn't suit you as well? Because you had taken on a persona and y'all were gigging a lot, and I would imagine at some point it started to outpace you, or you just felt like it was the wrong direction to be heading in.
First of all, I want to compliment you on that outpace me, because that is so intuitive as to what it did. But it was my fault. I can't blame my band members. I can't blame really the times, and it was a combination of that, but really it was Michael O'Hara. I had gone so far beyond my home training and the things that were instilled in me as a child. The values, I debauched myself. I was a cocaine addict. I used to drink, upwards of 16 shots of Jack Daniel Black with water chaser. I could never do, coke or anything. The water, plus, Quaaludes, they
Sure.
don't really do that anymore, but they've substituted it with something else. I was a skunk. I really went so far. Now, I told you, and I want to tell your audience, I'm basically an old hippie from St. Louis, coming from a, shall we say, a Black Baptist religious family. Even though a lot of my family were Catholics, on and on and on, or Church of God in Christ, but the core of that was the teachings of my parents in the Black Baptist Church. I come from a very rich history of, gospel singers. Professor Thomas Dorsey, who wrote "Precious Lord, Take My Hand," and 200 or more other all-time gospel, icon songs. I knew Mahalia Jackson. I used to sit in her lap. My grandmother used to make her robes.
Wow.
I was trained by, Claire Ward, all these great gospel singers and acts and stuff. Mighty Clouds of Joy. They would all come through our churches. There, to date there have been over, I don't know, maybe 500 ministers, pastors, evangelists, saints, bishops, missionaries. So I came from all of that, and I'm really glad that I did, because now I'm back to the core of that, in a sense, in my my belief system, and how I live my life. But to continue to answer your question, yes, I got so far away from that. I lived in a commune. I lived in an ashram. I really went far away from the core of my training. That's not a bad thing, except when you put in the alcohol and the drugs.
Right.
I've been on a quest all my life to learn more about who Michael O'Hara is, more about the world and the different. I've read the Akashic records. Of course, I know the Bible. I'm also a minister, an ordained minister, and I've had churches and stuff like that. But now, for the last 20 some odd years, I'm just Michael O'Hara, a servant of God.
Mm-hmm.
I I have no judgments. Excuse me for clearing my throat. I have no judgments over anybody, gay, straight, lesbian, whatever. Any religious sect, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you believe in a higher power, I don't have no problem with it.
Sure.
But if you don't, I don't have any problem with you either, because I believe in everyone's inalienable rights to believe, worship, not worship.
Sure.
Because my favorite slogan for myself to the world is, "You be you, and I'll be me." Mm-hmm. You see, as long as it's not violent towards me or other people.
Sure.
Because that's where my hippieism comes in. I'm definitely peace and love.
Yeah.
Especially these days in a world that is so psychotic and
you need a little bit more of that.
It's just, we're all human beings.
Mm-hmm.
That's the generic equivalent of the common denominator for me.
Mm-hmm.
I respect you. I love you, my brother, for you being exactly who you are. That's very important to me, that people can be themselves without hurting each other.
Yeah.
There is that line of demarcation between us being who we are and doing the things that we feel we must do in our lives and to be happy and to be productive. But when you start hurting others,
Sure.
that's where I draw the line.
Now, you hadn't found your calling, so to speak, while in the Sheiks. You decided to leave the Sheiks because you wanted to move the band out to LA, I believe, and other members had different ideas.
Let's put it another way, and you're getting into the core of that, but the calling. I've had the calling on my life since I was 6 years old.
You didn't realize it at the time.
Yes, I did.
Did you?
Yeah. Yes, I did. And it's very important that people don't presuppose those things, because I came in this world like this. Mm-hmm. I knew from 6 years old that God, the way I believe, that I had gifts that God had given me, because I've never had a lesson, piano or vocal or anything. This has all been put inside of me. My parents bought a piano for Christmas for their 7 children, I included, and the moment the workers unwrapped it with the brown paper, this was back in the 50s. When they unwrapped that thing, it was like meeting my best friend. Within 2 weeks, through, I believe, and I know for myself, the power of God, I had written my first composition. And guess what it was called? Everybody's Coming to the End. Because my father was doing a series on the Book of Revelations.
Okay.
And so as a 6-year-old child, I was like this in church.
Right.
Oh yeah, but it was everybody's coming to the end to the end. Jesus coming with a mighty roar. It was like
to commemorate. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I looked like a Biafran child because they would shave my hair completely off, and I was scalped, as we used to call it back then. And I was so thin, so reed thin, I looked like an alien or a Biafran child and everything. Everybody's coming to the
You don't take up much space at 6 years old, but you were putting it all out there.
But guess what? When I turned 12, between 12 and 13, my legs overnight, it felt like, they just stretched. And I started getting tall because I'm 6'3", And so I woke up literally one day, in a sense, and all of my pants were high waters, how we call it, high waters. And it was the first time I defied my father. He said, "Michael Judson O'Hara, you get out of that bed and go." I said, "I'm not going to school, Daddy. You can beat me, but I'm not going." because nothing fits. I said, and they laugh at me anyway, because I was very awkward looking, like as I have no problem confessing, I was like,
Yeah.
and then I'm wearing clothes, up to here and up to there. I was like, no. And the children were very mean to me at times, as children are,
Of course.
And they would beat on me and stuff. And that's when I learned how to fight. But anyway, so he looked at me and I'm crying. And I said, Daddy, I don't put me through that. And my father, rest in peace and bless his heart, he took me shopping.
Nice.
And he bought me all new clothes and stuff like that. My brothers and sisters were furious because,
Sure.
I was like,
Yeah.
look at my finds, But, how children we do.
Sure.
But, and so then to this day, I'm still trying to find clothes that my body is just really weirdly proportioned.
Yeah.
That's the truth, my friend. Like I said, just keeping it real. And so I have to find clothes. Like I found these jeans. And so I learned how to take them in for the fashion of today. But anyway, I either look swallowed, or, it's hard for me to find clothes and stuff. So
the struggle
that
is
messes
real.
with your head too.
Okay, so to go back a bit, I guess the genesis for the next stage in your life after the Sheiks was
Right.
actually born out of business.
Yes, I realized, no credit to me, but I knew for years in the Sheiks, I loved them, they loved me, blah, 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 whatever. But I was outnumbered because they called it democracy. We'd go in a meeting, but they would always vote against me. And the more they did that, I had been, they didn't give credence to the fact that I had been performing on TV, radio, touring, and all this stuff all over the country, that I knew I learned things about the business. I've been a BMI writer for 65 years or more.
Wow.
I've been in the industry, but I was always outvoted, and it was all my music. And I was the lead singer, the piano player, the show, da da da. And so more and more I became frustrated because I knew inherently that to make it, really go further, which our fans expected, we would have to leave St. Louis and New Orleans and go to either New York or Los Angeles.
Sure.
There was no Nashville. Yes, there was, but it's not like today. I can truly say there was no Atlanta, with the industry and stuff. It was either New York or LA. I had family in LA. And so what happened was my late manager, that I had a manager for myself that started with me before the Sheiks ever started when I was a young kid. He came back into my life. Thank you, Lord, and rest in peace, Stan Plesser. Wonderful Jewish man that was very, very intuitive. He had the Cow Palace. He started that in Kansas City, Missouri, that huge palace where everybody played, all the great rock acts and stuff. He came by and did a drive-by and said, Michael, you ready? And he says, I've got a publishing deal for you with MCA, so that you can earn your keep and get in the industry. And then he made a deal for me to bring the Sheiks. So here I am back then with, thousands of dollars of a contract, and also a record contract for the Sheiks. And they would not leave. They would not leave. I offered to get a house because I would be making a lot of money, and I could do that because in the beginning we started in one house, and then the girlfriends came and and then everybody started moving away, But I said, give me 6 months of your life, in Los Angeles. I had club dates and everything because by then we had played the Whiskey A Go-Go, the Roxy, da 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 da.
Nice.
I said we could, I said with my MCA Universal contract, they'll set up all kinds of showcases for us, to introduce us into the industry, da 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 da. We can record the album, blah, 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 blah. While I start working my publishing deal as well. And I had the money. They wouldn't do it.
And they were, at this time, they were in St. Louis or in New Orleans?
No, we were living in New Orleans.
Okay.
And this was early 90s,
Okay.
1990. And so I said, well, I'll give you another year and a half of my life for you to decide. And we can do the circuit from Chicago all the way down and for, blah, 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 blah. And so I kept telling, they didn't think I was going to leave.
Yeah.
I kept saying, please. I was begging them. In meetings, I'd be crying, saying, please, our fans, we can't go any higher than what we're doing
Right.
on the circuit. We can't. We have to go to the hubs, the real industry.
Sure.
That's the thing. There is an industry here, but it's not the real industry as far as New York and LA.
Right.
And of course Nashville now and, Atlanta. And so I knew that, but they wouldn't listen to me. And finally, at the end of that year and a half, I said, well, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Because MCA, think about it, they were so amazing to allow me to keep my contract, and they hadn't even met me. What I was doing while I was playing the circuit for that year and a half, I was dipping into studios, writing music, recording it, and at that time, folks, mailing it, on cassettes. Ever heard of it?
And this was solo efforts?
Yeah,
while you were touring?
I
Okay.
was writing songs to submit for my contract that they started submitting to other artists. See, when you're a staff writer, they send you a grid every 3 months of every artist, and this is every publishing company. It's the common grid, we call it, or we called it back then. I don't know what they call it now, the stats, whatever. But anyway, that says who's recording, their name, the record company, the label that they're on, and what genre they're looking for, and then they would have the other category. I want to sound like, give me some songs like Michael Jackson or Janet or whoever at the time was hot.
Gotcha.
See, I never listened to those people in a sense when I would write. Of course I'm aware of them, and you can't go anywhere without hearing them then or now. But the artists, I never studied them,
Right.
because I already had my own thing, and I didn't ever want anybody to accuse me of plagiarism. So I didn't listen. I got it through what I called osmosis. If I was in somebody's car or I go into a club or whatever and they're playing it, I heard it. You know what I mean? But I didn't study it because I wanted my stuff to be fresh.
Yeah, it's hard to build to suit anyway when it comes to music.
Well, it can be
some
done.
people can't. Yeah, some people can do it.
They have those Rolodex minds.
me.
Oh, let's do this
Yeah.
But that's why I've never been sued for plagiarism. Thank you, Lord. But anyway, I was sending music to Los Angeles
Gotcha.
during that year and a half. And the band, they didn't even take notice. They didn't even take notice. I wasn't hiding. I was just doing my thing to keep that contract because I knew that since I couldn't present myself, that I was giving them this time.
Sure.
I had better keep that contract no
Sure.
matter what. So at the end of that, long story not long, you got 4 hours. I said, well, I'm going. So we played the last, circuit. And we ended up in St. Louis. We said goodbye to New Orleans. I cried for about 6 months. Just
a tough
cried
break,
on
man.
stage. Just
Yeah.
crying.
Yeah.
Because, I hated to leave the band, and I knew that we could have made a more of a success of it if they had only
Sure.
taken my judgment, but they never listened to me. Anyway, so then we got back home to St. Louis. And we said goodbye to everybody, and so many. Thank God for you. the wonderful fans here drove up, flew up, whatever, basically drove up in caravans to see that last performance at Mississippi Nights, which was an iconic place to play on the river in St. Louis. I didn't know there was that much water in my body. I was crying, saying goodbye. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And then in the dressing room, the only one that said, I'll say this, the only one that said a proper goodbye was Leslie Martin, the guitar player, he's no longer with us, but, he hugged me. The other two wouldn't speak to me. That is the truth. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. And they predicted that I would fail in the career.
Yeah.
The next day, I sold my piano. Somebody still has it. They posted it on Facebook. The last piano, the chic piano that I used. It was white. All that stuff was white. Anyway, so I drive out there with the late Christopher Geiger, who was like a son to me, but he was head of the road crew. Mm-hmm. And he called me Daddy. We had this, symbiotic relationship. I was older than him. I brought him into, the group and everything like that. And, anyway, we drove out together. I cried all the way there. I threw up all the way there because, especially when I got to the desert and, I said, turn the air conditioner off. And the heat was bringing all the drugs and alcohol out of me. It was disgusting, but it was necessary. And when I got to LA, I got settled in my aunt's house for a while. And then I had to present myself to MCA Universal for the first time. Mm. Well, by then I'd had a couple of moderate hits. But I showed up to the Universal Studios on the lot. It's funny. I mean, there's a little... anyway, I'm just talking, but that's what we're here for. So I show up at the offices and I come in and the secretary says, "May I help you?" I said, "Hello, my name is Michael O'Hara and I'm signed to you." She went. And so she started, "You're Michael O'Hara?" And then she started naming some of the songs. I said, "Yes, it's me." It's the first time that I finally left my band. So here's, interestingly enough, nobody out there knew the Sheik. Of the Sheiks.
How fitting. Yeah.
They didn't. But it was horrifying in a way because that was my identity. And it was no longer that, so I had to reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. And that's how I did it. In a sense, when I took the scarves off, my hair was about down to here. I didn't even notice it had grown like that because I would take a shower, just put it immediately up and, go. And then I gave what is called myself a perm, but it's actually for blacks, a relaxer. Mm-hmm. And then it went down to there. It was straightened. And I did a very black version of Veronica Lake, you dig, with
okay.
Yeah. It was severe, And I looked in the mirror, I went, Again, it was another milestone in my life where I said, that'll work, and I think my parents, I had nice hair, but I had just never straightened it.
Sure.
And so I was wearing designer suits with this severe look,
forced to be reckoned with.
Exactly. So everywhere I went, people noticed me, and and then I committed every fall pot I would get into these parties or these clubs, these exclusive clubs, because of the way I looked and the way I was dressed and everything, but I was still relatively unknown, or they didn't connect the dots yet.
Right.
But guess what I do? That was back when you wore those big coats, and stuff like that. Not coats, but, jackets, the long ones and stuff. And I would sew pockets inside.
Yeah.
I'm giving away all my trade
I can
secrets.
tell. We're catching it.
Okay. And I would stick cassettes in the pockets. Mm-hmm. And I've never been a thief in my life, thank you, Jesus. But I would drop cassettes in the different stars' purses, or when they were coming out of the restroom, I'd say, listen to that. And they would see the look and everything, and they would say, well, you got to be something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's how they started taking my songs.
By any means necessary.
Yeah, hey, you got to do what you got to do, you
That's
know.
great.
And so I'll never forget my first Hollywood party with the stars. I mean, the real stars, Barbara Streisand, you know, Robert De Niro and all those people, you know, that I was invited to by MCA. And so I went to Palm Beach Leather. I didn't have much money. I went to Palm Beach Leather and got the tightest leather outfit known to man. I mean, this thing was tight. Okay. And it was like a light cream leather with the kind of the stovepipe leather pants and the vest and the jacket. Yours truly didn't wear the jacket. I carried it, but I didn't wear a shirt. And that's back when I had a better figure. And I mean, and my hair was, you know.
Sure.
Well, my relatives down in Long Beach, which was 60 miles from LA, they naturally weren't invited, bless their hearts. So they said, you come down here and get dressed. We want to see you. You know, they wanted to share. So here's funny. I go in the bathroom. I do this whole thing, you know, for a couple hours. I come out expecting them to say, wow, you look great. And my late granny said, oh, honey. And she started every sentence, good or bad, with, oh, honey. She goes, how you get in them britches?
Right.
Do you powder up
You
and
got
jump off the
powder.
balcony
Yeah.
or something? I said, no. And she said, I expect I better get my needle and thread because you about to bust out them britches.
Oh, no.
Well, from this to, you know, they really were ego levelers, you know.
That's funny.
But I went to the party and I met everybody, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a great night, but, you know, humility, there have been those milestones where I've learned humility here
Sure.
and there when we need it, you know.
Hindsight's 2020. I'm reading Under a Hoodoo Moon by it's Dr. John's biography, and in it, and I think this kind of preceded your time at New Orleans playing, but he discusses a lot about the way that the musicians' unions shaped the landscape or the landscape in which they played all throughout the city of New Orleans. You know, they were kind of like warring ecosystems, and there was segregation in the ranks and things of that nature. Did you have to deal with any kind of unions or any kind of behind-the-scenes hurdles that people don't really, I guess, know
I'm still
too
doing
well?
that.
Yeah?
It's still, you know, the first thing for me personally is that, and I love New Orleans in spite of it, is
Good way to
because
put it.
I wasn't born here. So New Orleans definitely takes care of their own. That part I love, okay? It's not racial on that level for what I'm talking about in this instance. It's just, if you're from here, the opportunities are higher and more frequent for you to work and to display, you know, your gifts and stuff like that. I admire it. I support it in the sense that, you know, native born, yes. The problem for yours truly is that I came here in 1972. I will never be native born, but I certainly have helped to shape the industry here with the music and the performances and my name, and everybody knows me, but I don't get on those big shows. And this is going to sound horrible, but, you know, I hope you're seeing, I just keep it real, how I feel, what
Sure.
I do, And sometimes I cry, literally cry, because I'm not invited
Right.
to the Klan's party. And I don't mean that with the Ku Klux Klan. I mean,
No, I got you.
you know, the
Yeah,
musicians'
the
Klan.
inner circle.
But the musicians themselves have such a respect for me because everybody has borrowed from me and learned from me and been influenced by me. They get it. And I can't help but be happy for them that because they're from here, they get the opportunities that I don't get.
Sure.
I got back then. See, the industry was more open here in New Orleans back then. And then we were so new, and what we did was so different than what New Orleans was used to. The whole city embraced us, you know. And so we played 7 times at the Superdome. We played at the Singer all the time. We played at, you know, the Warehouse. We played, plus we learned, you know, we played the honky-tonk places because they are prestige places, because all of the old timers, the greats played there too. And then a week or so before or after, they'd be, you know, playing at the Singer or something like that. This is a very different animal down here. But now,
No.
when I came out of retirement, I thought, I mean, the turnout was amazing. I thought, I'm back, you know, got my mark. But then there's also this. My fan base, which is considerable, they're as old as I am or older.
Right.
Or a little younger, like yourself. And you got homes and cars and, you know, businesses. And you
Your
got
audience.
children and grandchildren.
Your
and,
audience grew with you.
you know,
Yep.
and so I quickly learned that. It took one night after my opening, which was jam-packed. Then the next time I played, not so much. And then not so much. Also, all my fans, they keep it real with me. I keep it real with them. They're like, it takes, you know, 2 weeks to recover from a night with you, because they come out and they drink. See, I don't drink.
Right.
I don't drink, you know. But they're back in the day when they do come, and then they're like rock lobsters, you know.
Sure.
And see, I think to myself too, understanding it theoretically and figuratively, I know, I mean, in my heart, if I did what I used to do to perform now it'd be Pop Goes the Weasel. My heart, you know, I'd be
Rick
I'd be
James.
going, no. Y'all can't see. Oh,
Right.
oh, you're bad.
That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, I would die.
Yeah.
Because that's what got me to stop 40 years ago. Drinking, drugging, smoking. I used to smoke 4 packs of cigarettes a day.
Wow.
Marlboro Red Box.
Oh, man.
Loved me some Marlboro Red Box.
Oh.
But I can't do that. You know, I couldn't. Thank God I finally got the memo, you know, 40 years ago. And I've been clean and sober, sex-free, drug-free, you know, smoke-free, you know. I thank God that I live on it today. You know, that part is great. But as you could see, videos that I'm recording and stuff, you know, God is still giving me enough, how do I put this? Enough youthfulness in my limbs and in my voice that I can't scream like I used to. You know, I used to do this banshee scream that everybody loved. You know, if I tried to do a split, I'd be in traction, you know.
Sure.
But I can move my behind. I can shake it, you know, and you know, and hit at it. And I'm very energetic on stage for my age.
Sure.
You know? And there's a youthfulness that because I stopped doing all of that thank God through His power I'm able to retain. But yeah, I get it. But see, that traps me and entraps me too, you know. So that's where the Torch Singer came in. I don't mean to guide your interview about me, but I'm known now as the Torch.
Oh, okay. The Torch. I didn't understand.
The Torch Singer.
Gotcha.
Because I sing the songs from the late 20s to the 90s with a lot of Motown in it. But I do, you know, Judy Garland, Frank Sinatra, you know, all those people, you know. I'm gonna love you like nobody's loved you. Come rain or come shine.
Yeah.
You know, I do all those songs at the grand piano. I play at Fleming's on Thursdays, and I play at the Chop House on Fridays. And then I was doing a whole bunch of other things. Recently, for the last year, because I got COVID, in the beginning, 2019 December, before they knew what it was. They called it the virus. I contracted it and I almost died. And it took me 8 weeks to get back. And since then, I've been getting a series of pneumonia, in which recently I contracted pneumonia from being on the front lines. You know, people are so sweet. They want to hug me and stuff like that. We don't live in that kind of world anymore.
Right.
You know, we love you. And they come up on you really quick. And there's, you know, I try, and I don't want to insult anybody. I really don't, because I need them. I love them. I want their love. And I would love to, because I'm a hugger.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
I used to hug everybody, but I can't do that now. You know, and I can't sing with a mask, because I asphyxiate, you know.
Sure.
And they won't. I've spent all this money on a piano plexiglass shield. They won't let me use it because it says, you know, it turns people away, makes them nervous, like I'm with COVID or there's COVID there. You know, I can understand. But it's very, so I've been on hiatus for the last 5 months, so my lungs could heal, because with all the smoking, all the drugs, all this, you know, all the alcohol, I did damage to my lungs, you know, and then with COVID and 3 bouts of pneumonia, I really had to take off, you know, to heal. I'm going to go back in April and start performing again, but it's been interesting for me because I stayed very busy, but been basically in this house. And when I have to go shopping or something, I look like a bag man that used to work for NASA.
Everybody's routines has changed.
Hello?
We spent basically the past 2 years living in our house. I'm on a boat and I'm home, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And when I go out, it's you know, so I build as much of a fortress with chairs stacked around me so they can't come behind the piano, but they get in, they just...
These velvet ropes.
You know.
You need the velvet ropes.
Oh, boy.
These don't part for anybody.
I think I would use chain metal if I could.
Yeah, well, you might get the wrong impression, you know.
But no, I love them. I love the fans, and I want to hug, but we just don't live in that kind of world.
You had mentioned earlier, or at least I wanted to kind of guide us to where your previous lifestyle had started to grow old, take its toll, what have you, and eventually you found your way to becoming a minister. Is that correct? And I wanted to ask if experiencing both sides of the fence has kind of helped you in your capacity as a minister today, because you know what people that have only been ministers don't know. Has it helped you?
There is no question about that, my brother.
Yeah.
No question. I'm more empathetic, but at the same time, I'm a no-nonsense person. This is going to be really bad to say it this way, but this is how I feel. I'm kind of in the pray for your own ass ministry. You know, I've been a minister so long that if a person, and I start with me, everything starts with me and what I went through to understand this. If you're not going to pray for yourself and you're not going to make the changes necessary to allow those prayers to work in your life, I'm not going to waste my time.
Sure.
But I used to pray and, you know, labor with people, but the last 10, 12 years, I can't do that anymore. Because my time on this earth, I don't know how long God's going to let me live, and I work very hard to try to stay healthy, but, you know, it's all in His hands, but I don't have the time to work with people who are not going to work for themselves.
Sure.
Okay? And I know right now, ministers and, you know, ecclesiastic people say, pray for your own ass ministry. Yeah. That's why God won't give me a church anymore, because that would be my sign.
Yeah.
Welcome to the pray for your own ass church.
Here's your sign.
Okay. Because I can't help you. Only God can help us. And only yourself doing the work.
Yeah.
But if you're doing, I minister on social media all the time. The people are really reaching out and really making steps to change, you know. Now, let me also say this. I wish I could have a glass of wine. I wish I had the strength to have a cigarette. I don't wish for the drugs. And I'm so beyond the sexual drives of myself because all of those things rolled together to contrive to kill me. And it was me killing me. I can't blame anybody that had them, that shared them with me. By the way, thank you very much back then. But anyway, no, it was me. See, my father used to preach, every tub has to sit on its own bottom. Ain't that true? He didn't originate it, but that was part of his slogans and his sermons. And I always, it sunk in towards the end of my career with all the drugs, sex, the
Sure.
stuff, And so when I gave it up, I made a vow to God when he saved my soul and saved my life and saved me from myself. Ain't that a kick in the rubber parts? Okay. It was me, And so I feel like this. My heart goes out to drug addicts, but only to the point where you have to really want it. I had come so far down low that I knew I was going to die. I didn't want to die, but I really, that aha moment, as they say, was a big aha for me. And it was an epiphany, and I knew that I was probably weeks away from dying. I knew it with everything in me, my friend. And I didn't want to do that, and I didn't want to disappoint myself with all these gifts that God has given me. I'm twice published author. I've written 20 novels, on and on. I'm 287 pages into a new novel. I ain't just been up in this house, so I stay very busy just like you. But I knew that I had to change. I wanted so bad, but still, here's the other common denominator. I told the Lord, either save me or kill me.
One way or the other.
I can't go on like that. I couldn't go on anymore like that. And I felt in that moment, I felt the imitable power of God strike me from the top of my head, and I just felt his power permeate every atom, every part of my being down to my toes. And from that day to this day, I have never gone back on that. And the Word of God says, forgetting not these things from which I brought you from. I got other mess that he's still trying to,
Sure,
to work on me with. But those things, drugs, sex, alcohol, smoke, the vices, that was it for me, And so there's a song that I learned as a child. It's called How I Got Over. How I got over. How I got over. My soul looks back and wonder how I got over. I mean, now there's some truth in there. For all of us, and yourself included, I don't exactly know, except I was ready and ripe for change. And I knew that I was going to die, and I didn't want to. And so I gave my life to a higher power. I don't want to sound all Jesus-y and all this stuff, but I'm telling you folks, at least for me, the buck starts and stops here for me, just like with every other human being. I gave my life to the Lord, and I won't turn back. I'm going to go to my grave as I am now, and every day is still a step forward.
Sure.
I get tempted. Sometimes I'll see somebody, I go, you see that's a running thing with me. Or, if I watch TV or those exposés and I'll see a pile of cocaine, I'll go,
Yeah.
and remember, but what it did to me. People say a lot of times, interviewers or whatever, people that talk to me about this, they've never done it. They say, what's the fascination? Why did you do drugs? Because it felt good.
Yeah.
Felt good.
Why did so many for so long?
And this is something that the ecclesia don't really like to say, because obviously their hearts are so afraid, I keep it real, as you see. I have no filters, nothing. Drugs, alcohol, all that, it feels good. Okay? Let's just keep it real. It feels good. But there is a price
Sure.
to pay.
And that's the insight I think I was trying to touch on.
There's a
Having
price.
been there, now being somewhere else to kind of send a message to everyone.
And I hope that you and your viewers can see I'm happy.
Sure.
I don't feel deprived or anything of that. Well, maybe because I did your bunch, my bunch, everybody
Yeah.
else. But it's more that my soul feels clean. Hear that shit. I'm sorry. Don't want to go in that road. Okay. But I believe in praising God for what he's done. I feel good. I feel clean. I couldn't bear to feel like I did then with all of that. You wake up, oh God, what did I did? And knowing what you did and knowing what you weren't doing.
Sure.
And so I worked so hard to come out of that with the power of God leading me out and stuff. And believe me, my body, oh God, like I said, it was just in the desert to expel all of that and get that out of my DNA, because it does get down to the DNA. I hope you all realize that. We alter ourselves with all of that, all the excesses and stuff. So that took over a year or so for me to
Sure.
cleanse. I tell people, salvation is free and it's immediate if you accept it. But, sanctification comes at the cost. It's going to take time.
Right.
And you got to be strong, because Satan, if you don't even want to use that analogy, I'll go here. The evil forces in the universe, I'll go there with you. When the moon is in our seven, okay. You got to fight it, But we are stronger because the force of the universe made us and made everything, and is stronger than. That's why I don't fear, for me, what's happening with Russia and all this stuff and stuff, because I know where I'm going. This is how I believe. It doesn't, I don't negate anybody else's belief system, but for Michael O'Hara, I know that I am redeemed. I know the Redeemer on a personal, molecular level. I feel like a child before him, and the humility of all of that. But I know when my work is done on this earth and God closes my eyes, I know where I'm going.
Sure.
I know it, just like I'm talking to you all right now. I'm going to be with him forever, and we'll all be together. All of us will be in heaven. We'll all be together. That's the way I believe. That's the way I live. That's my story, and I ain't changed it.
Sticking to it.
Yeah.
Did this, of course it did, but in what respect did this inspire the gospel rock opera? What was it? The Isle of Dreams. I'm sorry. So, I mean, at that time, obviously, your higher power played
I was
a big
newly
role.
minted, as we call it.
Okay, it played a big role in your life, and you felt so inspired.
Well, God started. It would take too long, maybe in another interview, to really explain that, the processes that God, had me go through for that. But we'll just cap it by saying, I began to, God visits me in my dreams and wakes me up generally early in the morning, and my phone and my dictaphone, it just feel, I'll be like I played for you Make It Rain, which is on my new CD, and I have all the recordings. Make it rain, let your love rain. I mean, because my voice is trashed in the morning, But he gives me all this stuff, and I wake up and I write it down and I record it, and so that I don't lose it. And then when I get in the studio, it's already finished in my head.
You got the roadmap, yeah.
And I just go in and let him lead me, and I put down what I'm hearing in my head. Every part, just like I always did with the Sheiks. But Isle of Dreams is something very, very different and special. And I think it's some of the greatest work I'll ever do in my life. I'm gonna love you like nobody's loved you. come rain or come shine.